On the morning of August 24, AD 79, the streets of Pompeii came alive just as they always had. Merchants opened their shops. Children laughed as they ran through narrow stone streets. The smell of fresh bread drifted from neighborhood bakeries. In the marketplace, farmers arranged baskets of fruit. Fishermen displayed the morning's catch. And wealthy citizens discussed politics beneath the warm Italian sun. To everyone living there, it was just another ordinary day. No one imagined that before sunrise the next morning, their city would disappear forever. Pompeii was one of the wealthiest cities in the Roman Empire. Located near the Bay of Naples, it was home to nearly 20,000 people. Its location made it perfect for trade. Ships arrived every day carrying wine, olive oil, spices, silk, and precious goods from across the Mediterranean. Money flowed through the city, and so did luxury. The richest citizens built magnificent villas decorated with colorful frescoes. Marble statues lined elegant gardens. Private bathhouses, indoor fountains, and beautiful courtyards became symbols of wealth and power. For Rome's elite, Pompeii was more than a city. It was a paradise. Life moved at its own peaceful rhythm. Gladiator games filled the amphitheater with cheering crowds. Public baths welcomed hundreds of visitors every day. Street vendors sold hot meals to busy workers. Children attended school. Artists painted breathtaking murals. Musicians entertained guests during lavish evening feasts. Every corner of Pompeii reflected the confidence of a civilization at its peak. Towering quietly above the city was a mountain few people feared. Mount Vesuvius. Its green slopes looked peaceful. Vineyards covered its hillsides. Farmers cultivated fertile land enriched by volcanic soil. Many families had lived beneath the mountain for generations. To them, it was simply part of the landscape, a silent guardian overlooking their homes. Few realized that Vesuvius was not an ordinary mountain. It was a volcano. And beneath its peaceful surface, pressure had been building for centuries. Years before the disaster, there had already been warnings. In AD 62, a powerful earthquake struck the region. Buildings collapsed. Temples cracked. Many homes were damaged. The people rebuilt. They believed earthquakes were simply part of life. No one connected them to the mountain towering above. In the years that followed, smaller tremors continued. Sometimes dishes rattled. Walls vibrated. Animals became restless. Dogs barked without reason. Birds suddenly abandoned their nests. Even the wells in some neighborhoods behaved strangely. Water levels changed unexpectedly. Yet life continued. The warnings became background noise. Human nature has a remarkable ability to become comfortable with danger, especially when that danger never seems to arrive. As summer reached its peak, the vineyards surrounding Pompeii looked healthier than ever. Markets remained crowded. The city's future seemed bright. Travelers arriving from Rome admired its beauty. No one hurried. No one prepared to leave. Because no one believed there was anything to escape from. But deep beneath Mount Vesuvius, molten rock continued to rise. Gases accumulated inside the volcano. The pressure increased. Hour by hour. Day by day. Silently. invisible to everyone living below. Nature was preparing one of the most destructive volcanic eruptions in recorded history. And the people of Pompeii were about to learn a lesson the world would never forget. One peaceful city, one sleeping volcano, one ordinary morning, and one disaster that would freeze an entire civilization in time. The morning began like every other. The streets of Pompeii were already crowded. Merchants called out to customers. Blacksmiths hammered glowing iron. Children chased one another through narrow alleyways. Nothing seemed unusual. But beneath their feet, the earth was moving. It began with a gentle tremor, just enough to shake hanging lamps. Some people stopped for a moment, looked around, and then continued with their day. Small earthquakes were common in the region. No one felt afraid anymore. The people had learned to ignore them. But this time, something was different. The tremors came more often. They lasted a little longer. And each one felt slightly stronger than the last. Outside the city, nature had already noticed. Dogs barked without stopping. Horses became restless inside their stables. Birds suddenly took flight in huge flocks. Even farm animals refused to eat. The air itself felt strange, heavy, still, as if the entire world was holding its breath. Some families quietly wondered if the gods were sending a warning. Others laughed at the idea. After all, nothing had happened yet. Life continued. Shops remained open. The public baths welcomed visitors. The amphitheater echoed with conversation. Pompeii refused to believe that disaster could arrive without warning. Then, shortly after midday, everything changed. A deafening roar exploded across the sky. People looked toward Mount Vesuvius. What they saw, no one had ever witnessed before. A gigantic column of ash, smoke, and volcanic gas burst from the summit. It climbed higher and higher until it towered over the entire region. The cloud spread across the sky like a massive stone pine tree. Its upper branches expanded in every direction. The sunlight began to disappear. Some people froze where they stood. Others simply stared. Many had no idea what they were looking at. There was no word in their language for what was happening. No one living in Pompeii had ever seen a volcanic eruption. Within minutes, small pieces of volcanic rock began falling from the sky. At first, they were tiny, light enough to brush off a shoulder. Children picked them up with curiosity. Some laughed. Others believed it was nothing more than an unusual storm. But the falling ash became heavier. The streets slowly turned gray. Roofs collected layers of volcanic debris. People covered their faces with pieces of cloth. Breathing became difficult. The air filled with dust. Still, many citizens refused to leave. They believed the eruption would end soon. Some gathered their valuables. Others locked their homes, certain they would return before nightfall. Merchants rushed to protect their businesses. Parents searched for frightened children. Neighbors shouted to one another through the growing darkness. Every minute, the mountain became more violent. The explosions grew louder. The ash cloud expanded across the sky. Lightning flashed inside the black volcanic plume. The ground shook continuously. The sun, once bright above Pompeii, completely disappeared. Day became night. Oil lamps were lit in the middle of the afternoon. People stumbled through streets they had walked their entire lives, now unable to see more than a few steps ahead. Fear finally replaced disbelief. Families began leaving the city. Some fled toward the sea. Others escaped through the northern gates. Many carried children in their arms. Some pushed elderly parents through the choking ash. But thousands made one tragic decision. They stayed. They believed their homes would protect them. They believed the worst had already passed. They believed tomorrow would bring clear skies once again. They were wrong. High above Pompeii, Mount Vesuvius had only just begun its eruption. The deadliest hours were still to come. The eruption had now entered its most terrifying stage. The peaceful city of Pompeii was disappearing beneath the sky. The giant column of ash above Mount Vesuvius continued to rise, higher than anyone could imagine. For kilometers into the atmosphere, it spread across southern Italy, blocking out the sun. Within hours, the bright afternoon became darker than midnight. The only light came from flashes of volcanic lightning, exploding inside the enormous ash cloud. Each thunderous blast echoed across the valley. The ground refused to stop shaking. Inside their homes, families gathered together. Parents tried to comfort frightened children. Some prayed to the Roman gods. Others begged their neighbors to leave. But outside, the streets had become almost impossible to recognize. Ash fell without mercy. Minute after minute, hour after hour, it covered rooftops, statues, gardens, market stalls, and every road leading out of the city. What had started as a thin layer soon became knee-deep. Walking grew harder with every step. People slipped. Wagons became trapped. Horses collapsed from exhaustion. Visibility dropped only a few meters. No one could see where they were going. Many became separated from their families. Children cried out for their parents. Husbands searched desperately for their wives. Friends disappeared into the darkness, never to be seen again. Then, the weight of the ash became too much. One roof collapsed. Then another. Then dozens more. The sound echoed through Pompeii like thunder. Entire homes crumbled without warning. People sleeping inside had no chance to escape. Others were trapped beneath broken walls and heavy wooden beams. The city itself was beginning to collapse. Across Pompeii, chaos replaced order. Some citizens tried to flee toward the coastline. They hoped ships could carry them to safety. Others ran toward the city gates. But every road looked the same. Ash covered every landmark. The darkness made direction almost impossible. Many wandered in circles, completely lost inside their own city. Some wrapped cloth around their faces, trying to breathe through the choking dust. Every breath became painful. Hot ash filled their lungs. Their eyes burned. Even speaking became difficult. The air itself had become an enemy. Still, thousands refused to abandon their homes. Many believed the eruption would end by morning. They hid inside basements, locked their doors, and waited. They did not know that the walls protecting them would soon become their prison. Meanwhile, Mount Vesuvius continued roaring above them. With every explosion, more volcanic rock crashed onto the city. Some stones were large enough to smash through rooftops. Others shattered streets that had existed for centuries. Beautiful villas, elegant temples, and crowded marketplaces slowly disappeared beneath meters of ash. Nature was erasing Pompeii, one layer at a time. Far outside the city, those who had escaped looked back in horror. Where they had once seen a thriving Roman city, there was now only darkness, smoke, and an enormous mountain pouring destruction into the sky. Many realized something terrifying. Their families were still inside. Some turned around, ignoring every warning. They ran back toward Pompeii, hoping to rescue loved ones. Very few returned. As midnight approached, the eruption showed no signs of stopping. Instead, it became even more violent. Deep inside the volcano, a far deadlier force was gathering. It would move faster than any human could run, hotter than any fire ever built. And when it arrived, Pompeii would vanish forever. By midnight, Pompeii was barely recognizable. The streets that had once echoed with laughter were buried beneath thick layers of ash. Buildings stood damaged. Roofs had collapsed. The air was almost impossible to breathe. Yet, the worst had not arrived. High above Mount Vesuvius, the eruption had entered its most violent phase. The towering column of ash, which had risen into the sky for hours, could no longer support its own weight. Then, without warning, it collapsed. What followed was unlike anything the people of Pompeii had ever imagined. A gigantic wave of superheated gas, ash, rock, and volcanic debris surged down the mountainside. Scientists today call it a pyroclastic flow. It wasn't lava. It was far deadlier, moving at incredible speed. The scorching cloud raced toward the city. It destroyed everything in its path. Trees snapped like twigs. Stone walls shattered. Entire buildings disappeared beneath its force. For anyone still inside Pompeii, escape was no longer possible. Some families remained hidden inside their homes. Parents held their children close. Neighbors gathered together, hoping thick walls would protect them. But no building could stop what was coming. The burning cloud entered the city within moments. The temperature reached several hundred degrees Celsius. Wood ignited instantly. Doors burst into flames. Roofs collapsed one after another. The air itself became lethal. Breathing was impossible. Within seconds, the streets vanished beneath a storm of burning ash. People who had been running toward the city gates suddenly disappeared into the darkness. Those trapped inside houses never had the chance to open another door. The heat was overwhelming. The force unstoppable. Pompeii had become a city without hope. Outside the city, survivors watched from distant hills. Where homes had once stood, there was now only a massive cloud of ash rolling across the landscape. The sounds of the city faded. No more shouting. No more footsteps. No more voices calling for help. Only the relentless roar of the volcano. By sunrise, Pompeii had disappeared. Nearly every street, every marketplace, Every temple, every villa, lay buried beneath meters of volcanic ash and stone. Thousands of lives ended in a single night. Some people died while trying to escape. Others remained with their families until the very end. Many were frozen in their final moments. Not because time had stopped, but because the ash covered them so quickly that it preserved the spaces their bodies once occupied. The volcano continued erupting for many more hours. Ash drifted across the Bay of Naples. Nearby towns also suffered terrible destruction. The entire region had changed forever. For the Roman Empire, it was an unimaginable tragedy. One of its most prosperous cities had vanished from the map. No victorious army had conquered Pompeii. No invading empire had destroyed it. Nature alone had erased an entire civilization in less than 2 days. And then, silence. The ash slowly settled. The smoke drifted away. Mount Vesuvius stood quietly once again, as if nothing had happened. Beneath its gray blanket, Pompeii remained hidden. Its homes, its streets, its treasures, and the stories of thousands of ordinary people would remain buried for nearly 17 centuries. When the eruption finally ended, silence returned to the Bay of Naples, where a thriving Roman city had once stood. There was now only a vast landscape of gray ash and hardened volcanic stone. Pompeii had disappeared. Not destroyed beyond recognition, but buried completely. Roads vanished beneath meters of ash. Homes, temples, gardens, theaters, marketplaces. Everything was sealed beneath the earth. Within a few generations, the exact location of Pompeii faded from memory. People walked across the buried city without knowing an entire civilization rested beneath their feet. Centuries passed. The Roman Empire collapsed. Kings and kingdoms rose and fell. Wars reshaped Europe. New cities were built. New generations were born. But Pompeii remained untouched, hidden in complete darkness. Its streets frozen exactly as they had been on that terrible day in AD 79. For nearly 1700 years, time stood still beneath the ash. Then, in 1748, everything changed. Workers digging in the area uncovered ancient walls, paintings, and stone buildings unlike anything they had expected. At first, no one fully understood what had been found. But as excavations continued, archaeologists realized they had uncovered something extraordinary. It was Pompeii, the lost Roman city, almost perfectly preserved. Walking through its streets was like stepping back in time. Homes still contained furniture. Colorful wall paintings decorated bedrooms and dining rooms. Bread remained inside ancient ovens. Wine jars stood where merchants had left them. Coins, jewelry, tools, children's toys, even political messages painted onto walls had survived beneath the volcanic ash. Pompeii was no longer just a city. It had become a time capsule. A perfect snapshot of everyday Roman life. But perhaps the most emotional discovery came many years later. In the 19th century, Italian archaeologist Giuseppe Fiorelli noticed strange empty spaces within the hardened ash. He realized these cavities had once been occupied by human bodies. Over time, The bodies had decomposed, leaving hollow shapes behind. Fiorelli carefully filled those spaces with plaster. When the hardened ash was removed, the final moments of Pompeii appeared before the world. A mother shielding her child. A family embracing one another. A man covering his face. A dog still chained where it had tried desperately to escape. These were not statues. They were the final positions of real people, captured forever by one of history's greatest natural disasters. For the first time, the victims of Pompeii were no longer just numbers in history books. They became human again. Today, millions of people visit Pompeii every year. They walk along the same stone streets, enter the same homes, stand inside the same amphitheater, and look toward Mount Vesuvius, which still rises above the city. The volcano remains active. Scientists monitor it constantly. Modern technology gives us warning systems that the people of Pompeii never had. Yet, the mountain reminds us that nature's power has never disappeared. Pompeii teaches us more than the story of a volcano. It teaches us how quickly ordinary life can change. One morning, people worried about business, family, and tomorrow's plans. By the next day, history had already written their final chapter. It also reminds us why preserving history matters. Without archaeology, without careful research, Pompeii might have remained buried forever. Its stories, its people, and its lessons, lost beneath the earth. More than 19 centuries have passed. But Pompeii continues to speak to us. Not through words, but through silent streets, ancient homes, and the echoes of lives interrupted in a single day. History is often remembered through kings, empires, and great battles. But Pompeii reminds us that history also belongs to ordinary people. Parents, children, merchants, workers, neighbors, people who believed they had another tomorrow. The city may have disappeared beneath volcanic ash, but its story never vanished. It survived, waiting patiently beneath the earth, until the world was finally ready to hear it again. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy original documentaries based on real historical events, subscribe for more stories that uncover the forgotten moments that changed our world forever. And tell us in the comments, which lost city or historical mystery should we explore next? Because sometimes, the greatest discoveries are not hidden in books. They are waiting beneath our feet.